Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. We've got an incredible podcast lined up. My good friend Charles Pixley is back here with us talking about 714X and more alternative treatments. As well, will be joining us Rick Cuyler, someone who has benefited from Charlie's knowledge and also from some other very unique things that you might not have heard about if you only pay attention to modern medicine. Now, we're going to have a full 2 hours with these gentlemen, so should be lots of incredible information. And then at the end of the first hour, we are going to jump in with a call-in show, so you guys can call in and ask questions. We'll be right back after this sponsor. Imagine if you had received a personal invitation to invest $50 in Uber when it was a startup. On IPO day, you could have made $248,250. That same $50 invested in Amazon before it IPO'd could have made you over $7 million. Mike Markula was Apple's first angel investor, and on IPO day, his windfall was already up by 220,552%. But that's when Apple was only worth $1.8 billion. Think about how much Markula's net worth grew as Apple blazed a path to becoming the first $1 trillion company in U.S. history. And without him, iPhones, Apple Watches, iPads, and other devices we use in our daily lives may have never been invented. Look at these surprising returns from these popular startup companies. Some earning 583,264% revenue surges. What would you rather be? The angel investor or the IPO investor? The choice is clear as day. How would you feel if you could lock in a ground floor opportunity in the hottest startups this year that everybody's fighting over? Fortunately, Shark Tank's Robert Herjavec and his team of ultra-successful angel investors are here to help deliver angel deals with life-changing upsides delivered to you on a silver platter. Watch the free video at www.getangelrich.com or click the link in the description to see how you can participate in these potentially lucrative deals before the mainstream even finds out about them. Once again, that's www.getangelrich.com. All right, thank you so much to my sponsor, Get Angel Rich and Robert Herjavec, for sponsoring this show so that we don't have to worry about the stuff that we're saying. Guys, I'm still having audio issues. Okay, I think that this is going to work. I do apologize, guys. Before we get into the program, I just have a very special message that I want to send out. Today is my mother's birthday, you guys, and I'm sure that she is in the chat already. So I would like to have everyone here wish my mom a very happy birthday. Mom, thank you for everything you've done for me throughout my entire life. I could not be here doing this right now if it wasn't for you. Now, I also wanted to say thank you to my mods. I do see that JoJo K is here. I saw that Crystal Lynn is here, Gypsy North Kathy. I saw that Wheezy Girl was here. I saw Methods was here. If I missed you guys, then please, I will try to give you shout-outs during the show. Mom, I love you. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, and thank you for helping me to grow up into the kind of person that I am right now. All right, guys, without further ado, I would like to welcome my guests, Charles Pixley and Rick Cuyler. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Great.
Good. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. So, Charles, obviously, we've known each other for a while, and I think that many people saw our previous podcast together. But does somebody have the podcast on in the background?
Shut up. Yeah, we'll shut it off.
Okay, yeah, because I can hear it.
Shutting it off. Okay.
All right.
There we go.
So just,
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
My first one.
No problem.
Right.
For anybody, well, if you want to watch it just to see what's happening, you can just hit the mute on it, and then you can still see the picture and stuff.
Oh, okay. Got
yeah.
it.
But for Charlie, for people who don't know you, people who didn't see our last podcast, please give us a short introduction to who you are and how you got here.
In 1990, after several tumultuous events in my own life, I was looking for a way to get back into the market and do something as an entrepreneur, and came across a book written by Christopher Bird. At the time was called The Galilee of the Microscope. And at the time I was acting as a publicist for other authors. And here we find out that there are cures for cancer. In 1990, that was, nobody talked about that. In fact, if you did talk about it, they were crazy, you know. So I started an institutional review board and garnered the attention of about 4,000 physicians. We started doing interviews on talk radio. We didn't have internet at the time. Everything was done by fax machines and telephone. And I started doing interviews on national radio to offer up the knowledge and the book, and then later wrote my own version to introduce the protocol under what was called the Institutional Review Board, which is under the laws of Congress, which commands or demands informed consent. You may not know it, but every time you use them, anytime a doctor prescribes you a medicine, by law, Title 21, Part 56 of the United States Code, it demands informed consent. You're supposed to know all the negatives and all the positives. Well, it's just, they don't do that. When President Trump, Mr. Trump, passed the act in May of last year, the Right to Try Act, it was all hinged on informed consent. So anyway, we started making this knowledge available. We garnered no less than 50,000 terminal patients in a 3-year period, and hundreds of thousands of others who came and inquired from all over the world, including the Sultan of Brunei and movie stars. And we touched every strata of the public. And then we got very, very successful, very, very fast. And the FDA raided my office, took all our files, and then indicted me. In the process, I went to meet with the Assistant Secretary of Health, Philip R. Lee, who was the boss over David Kessler, and the Undersecretary to Donna Shalala. And we requested a waiver to bypass all these rules and regulations, and didn't really need it anyway, but we asked for it because they were going to come and indict me. And the FDA point blank told me in a private meeting, they told me that if I don't stop doing what I'm doing, they're going to find me guilty and put me in jail. Just like that. They told me just like that.
For saving lives.
Right. For teaching people how they can save their own life and where to get the medicine and so forth. And so basically at the time I was in my 40s and full of vinegar, and told them
a lot of it.
Told them in no uncertain terms some very nasty words. And of course they charged me with breaking an agency regulation. Well, I'm not part of the United States government, and my company was not part of the United States government. But they charged me with breaking an agency regulation, and it acted and treated it as though it were actual law. It was not a law. I did not break the law. And they used that to indict me and then charge me. In the middle of the trial, President Bill Clinton, and Chief Justice Rehnquist summoned the judge to Washington, and upon his return, the case was settled, and I was sentenced to a year in federal prison and 3 years probation. And of course, in the meantime, that wiped us out completely. And we were slandered, we were destroyed in the press. We lost everything on a material level. By the grace of God, we didn't lose any family, but everything else was gone, and we had to start over again. And that's the short story.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if you guys want to check out the full-length version of that story, you can always go back and check my first podcast with Charlie from a couple of months ago, entitled 714X Cancer Treatment, something like that. But it will say Charles Pixley and that in it. Now, Rick, you met Charlie because you were one of those patients that came looking for some type of an alternative to what modern medicine told you was going to happen. Why don't you tell us, your story, how you came to meet up with Charlie and what happened at the doctor?
Well, so I was I was 27 years old when I was diagnosed with acute non-lymphocytic leukemia, AML. And, on the day of diagnosis, I was given, 3 years to live. The type of leukemia I had was not, the more common type that like children have, which is acute lymphocytic leukemia. So, right off the bat, I was, given a 3-year, death sentence is what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And, so right off the bat, when I got sick, I collapsed. I mean, I had been sick for quite a while, and I was, slowly losing my hair in the shower, getting weaker and weaker, developing boils, and just denying it. I was a full-time student in college, and just kind of ignored the symptoms for a long time, and all the way up to the point where I would literally sleep 18 hours a day, barely be able to walk from the couch to the bathroom.
Wow.
Or the kitchen, and the situation I was in was pretty bad. So upon my diagnosis, like I said, I was given 3 years to live. So I went in for high dose chemo, and high dose for acute leukemia is usually about a 30 to 45 day stay in the hospital. You're getting about 2 liters of chemo a day, twice a day. Wow. If you were to probably weigh it out, it seemed to me that these glass bottles were 2 liters. I don't know what the exact size of them were, but over 7 days, I'm probably getting 7 gallons. Is what. And so when you develop such an aggressive disease as acute leukemia, the theory is, and my doctors used to always tell me this. He'd say, look, here's life, here's death. We want to get you right in the middle. Okay, so what happens is they want to first of all destroy every, not only red cell in your body, but every white cell, every platelet. So they give you that type of and that amount of chemo. So while that's taking place, they're giving you blood transfusions, platelet transfusions, and of course IV antibiotics. And the hope is that it will destroy enough of your blood cells that you'll be able to get a remission and make it through. But the risk is, of course, is that now your immune system is compromised and it's gone. And of course, anything that could come into your hospital room that would be resistant to the antibiotics would of course kill you.
Right.
So a lot of obviously there's a lot to that. So
grim prognosis.
Very much. When I was diagnosed, like I said, I collapsed. I was literally carried into the hospital. And once the actual tests were done, my doctor, who's 2 years out of Mayo Clinic Medical School, told me again that I had 3 years to live. And, the first thought that came to my head was, oh, so you're him, I always wonder what you look like. Because I've always, I just didn't, it hit me like that. It's like, you have 3 years to live. And it's like, if we can get you into a remission. Okay. So I know nothing at this point. I grew up on processed foods. I was not a health fanatic. I knew nothing about cancer, leukemia, other than the fact that my family members had died from cancer, not leukemia specifically. So that started down a pretty rough road. So I went through this chemo about 30 days, 40 days into it. I actually managed to get a remission, came back out of it. They immediately sent me into, like 60 days later into a follow-up, another almost as high dose. Instead of 7 days, it was only 6 days, 5 days. So I went through the first one, the second one, and then about 60 days later, I relapsed. So first indicator of relapse was platelets dropping, going from where they, once the counts, my blood counts started to come up, it would start to drop again. So the early indicator was a platelet drop. Platelet transfusions, and the whole process started. And then I would end up back in the hospital to do another round. So it was, so after my first relapse, my doctor informed me that I would have 3 months to live because I'm not responding to the chemo. I'm obviously relapsing early. My disease is so aggressive that when I went in for my actual 3rd round of chemo, I waited. And I actually was reluctant to go I had been doing a lot of research in the meantime. As soon as I was told that I had 3 months to live, the first thing I did was reached out to all my family members and said, look, if you know anyone that's been diagnosed with cancer, I don't care if it's voodoo, right? Send me the information and let me sort it out. The information was the key, right? Let me figure it out. The whole time I'm trying to figure out what my disease was. My brilliant, out of Mayo Clinic, oncologist doesn't know what cancer is, doesn't know how I got it, doesn't know why I have it, where it came from, and the only solution he has for me is that now I have 3 months to live. Right. So wow. The only thing I could do was next round. All right. So let's go back in. Let's do this again. So I went back in, did it again. Right. And same thing. All the risks are there. I used to, the third leading cause of death is hospital accidents, hospital mistakes, drug, et cetera. And I used to, here I am, I'm a cancer patient with the highest dose chemo that you get for anything. And these nurses would come in my room. People are dropping dead all over the oncology floor. And they would walk into my room and walk right over to my bed without going over and washing their hands. And I used to get very upset about that and cause a lot of controversy. I was not an easy patient.
Do you think that was just because they were sloppy, or was it that they just figured you're going to die anyways? Why go through the hassle?
That's it's the first time anyone's asked me that way, but you know what? It probably could have been a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But the point was it not one time from the day of my diagnosis, there wasn't a moment that I felt like I was going to die from this disease. All right, I was determined. Okay. So I didn't know anything about it. So I started out completely ignorant, but as soon as I, so my first round in the hospital, I mean, I was so bad here, here's the blood counts, right? So your white blood count's supposed to be somewhere around the 10,000 range. Mine was 88,000. Okay, your platelets are supposed to be 150 to 400,000. Mine were 11,000. Okay.
Wow.
My hemoglobin should be somewhere in the 14, 15 range. Mine was 5.5. All right. So I was sick. I was really bad. And when they started pumping me full of chemo, it's called Ara-C, and I literally, it knocked me down to the point where, morphine, of course, was a big part of the protocol. I was diagnosed September 28th, 1992. And, I started getting high doses of morphine. Well, I don't know if anyone who's ever been on morphine, you start to, get delusional, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start to hallucinate. And you really, morphine is that drug that hospice gives you, to help you die, I guess, what do they call it? Humanely.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean? And so I was getting a lot of morphine. I had a lot of pain. And so they started pumping me with more and more morphine. So I had family members come out, and this was right around Halloween. So here I am, September 28th. We're getting closer to Halloween. Of course, you're laying in a hospital room, and first of all you see all day long is Bob Barker, The Price is Right. And then, of course, all the Halloween scary shows and movies that are coming on. And while I'm sitting there hallucinating, I actually went through quite a time during that time. Anyway, it was a rough time. So once I got out of there, I was released on Halloween Day, and I fortunately, because I had a 4-year-old daughter and almost a 1-year-old son at the time, and so I was able to actually go trick or treating with them. So my blood count started to come up. I was released from the hospital, and then I started digging into research. Well, in 1992, I had a 256K computer that I bought from Radio Shack for like $2,500.
Wow.
Right? And I had, and I dial up internet because that's all you had at the time. And so now I'm trying to research my disease. What is it? How is it? How does it start? Whatever. Nothing. Of course, I used to click on a page and walk in the kitchen, make a sandwich, and come back out. And page isn't even loaded yet. That's how.
I remember those days.
I could find the info. I remember, yeah. So anyway, my best resource at that time was books, right? there were books that were written. And so again, I reached out to family and friends. I said, look, if you know of anything, I don't care what it is. And my mother, my mother had ran across a couple of people, Hal and Helen Harris. These are some of the most kind people. They had a foundation set up where they were helping people who had cancer, who couldn't afford alternative treatments or whatever. And so I ran across this book called 714X, Institutional Review Board, the Charles Pixley. Basically the story at the time was there's this New York millionaire who's trying to get this product, which is an all natural, non-toxic solution or cure for cancer and degenerative disease. Let's just package it all up in degenerative disease. And so I got the book, and honestly, that book is what changed the direction of what eventually ended up saving my life. And a big long story behind that too, but it pointed me in the right direction. So really that's where I got a hold of Charlie, and it was like, look, here's my deal. Can you help me out? And and I just got to say this, at the time, I didn't have the money. I was a full-time student, and as soon as I got sick, I certainly didn't have any income. I was on Medicaid, and of course, had to get help. I was permanently disabled from the day of my diagnosis, so I had permanent disability, and I didn't have the money. I couldn't pay for the 714X, and through Charles and through his program, they had the ability for me to get 714X without being able to pay for it.
Wow.
And so that's all the great things that were happening. And then I met Charlie, who was especially at that time was very, very oh man, did he light a fire under me too? Because here I am, I'm pretty much mainstream. I don't know much about anything. Huh?
I was intense at that point.
You're still intense, Charlie. But at that time, I didn't know anything about anything, and the information that started to come, because here I am. I'm 27 years old now. I'm having, I'm starting to reach out. I want to help myself. I've got this diagnosis from my doctor, and my doctor says he can't help me, and he says I got 3 months to live. And it's like, okay, so I got to find the solution. The cure is out there. But everything I brought to him, I brought the 714X, I brought the information, and every time I did, he shot me down. He's like, well, look, it's alternatives. It doesn't work. If it worked, we would use it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what about diet? Oh, don't worry, eat what you want, and again, like you probably said, well, is it because he absolutely felt like I was going to die? Or, was there no hope for me or whatever? But, I don't know. So anyway, I know I've rambled on there a little bit. So
you're good. You're good. I did just want to say real quick, guys, I saw that JoJo said it's her birthday tomorrow too. So if you could definitely wish JoJo K a happy birthday. So
hey, JoJo K, happy birthday. And by the way, my daughter's birthday, Erica Cuyler, was yesterday.
Oh,
November 8th.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We got a bunch of good people here.
We got to plug that one.
Yeah. Okay. So when you came to Charlie, what other types of treatments had you been trying, or was 714X the first alternative treatment that you tried and that worked?
Yeah. So yes, basically I knew nothing. 714X was the first book that came my way that actually started to make sense. Here we have a scientist, Gaston Naessens, thrown out of France, right, for curing cancer. Hey, I've been bucking the system my whole life up to that point. Anytime I could, give it to the man, I would, And so I was right up that alley. It was like, okay, well, there's a reason they threw him out of there, and it probably had to do with money.
Yeah.
So I had suspicions. I just didn't know anything. So it was like, the story of Gaston Naessens blew me away. And then, the book, the Galileo of the Microscope by Larry Bird, immediately got my hands on that. And when I read that story, it just started. Christopher Bird.
Larry,
sorry.
I was going to say from the Celtics.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't know Larry was an author.
But yeah. Right. Christopher Bird, yeah. But anyway, it's and then it went deeper into the story, and it talked about his somatidian orthobiology, and it actually, you know what, and so for all the research that I've been trying to do about what causes cancer, what is cancer, my oncologist telling me after being so well educated in the field of oncology, he doesn't know what cancer is. You know, it's this funny thing that in the late 80s or mid 80s or somewhere around that time, they admitted that leukemia was a virus.
Mm-hmm.
When I would ask my oncologist, you know, about that, he would, you know, basically say, well, you know, he had no answers, basically no answers. So, yeah.
You know what's interesting is that they won't admit it for people, but if your cat gets feline leukemia, then it's a virus,
Right.
and they'll admit
Right.
it, but they can't do it for people. I just don't understand that.
By the way, we
Right.
had horses and dogs and cats that use this medicine, and the babies too, and they respond. Oh, it's just amazing. They respond so fast because they don't have any argument going on up here. They don't have all
Right.
the controversy in their head. I know that maybe you've got 70,000 listeners right now. Out of that 70,000, they all know or have had known somebody who succumbed
Yeah.
to radiation. It's always blamed on cancer, but when it comes to them, they know that the government's been lying to them, but because the government's also paying for the therapy, they go right for the therapy as though they heard nothing. And this is part of the problem that we're trying to
Now, I just want to say, while we've got everybody on the hook here and before we get too deep into it, if you guys want to get a much more in-depth look at 714X, you know, this revolutionary treatment, Charlie's book is in the description of the video below. So there is a link there to buy it in paperback version. There's a Kindle version, and then there is just a regular ebook that you can download and check out. We didn't have that ready last time Charlie was on the show, and a lot of people were asking afterwards. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, then by all means, go ahead and get Charlie's book, because, you know, everything we're going to be talking about, we're scratching the surface here tonight. I do want to say thank you to Dana Finkler as well. He said, happy birthday to my mom, and where we bark one, we bark all. And also, big shout out to Methods. Looks like keep up the amazing work, brother. And I can certainly say that Methods does do amazing work. Do appreciate that. So what happened when you started using the 714X treatment?
Well, so, you know, back in 1992, so I got the medicine, and then I also received a videotape with it, because, you know, there's a couple ways that you can do the 714X, and the most effective is it's an injection into the lower linguinal lymph area, so in the lower abdomen, in the groin area, right? And then so they sent me that and a videotape, okay, a VHS tape, of course, at the time.
So that you could self-administer?
So I could self-administer, absolutely, yeah. Now, if there was a doctor in the area, because, you know, that's the thing that Charlie was doing at the time, is he was getting doctors together. He was if there was a doctor in my area, I could have went and saw this doctor, and this doctor would have not only at the time, you had to get a prescription for it. So literally, so I had to, get a prescription to get the medicine, and then the doctor would have shown me how to do the injection. So I did it by videotape, and I learned how to do it. And it's a daily injection. You do it, you know, preferably first thing in the morning. You know, you have to ice your groin area because the organic salts, and the organic salts are, you know, it's a little painful if you don't ice it first, you know, but the salts are so important. So anyway, so I got on the 714X, and I mean, I can, how do I say it? It's, what's in this, what the ingredients in the 714X, are absolutely, designed to reverse, you know, the process that's going on in the body, that begins, in a degenerative state. So the organic salts immediately liquefy the lymphatic system, which is gelatinized by, the process of degenerative disease. So, you know, I mean, at this particular time, I'm out of chemo. Part of, you know, what the protocol is for the 714X is also, you know, you really need to think about what you're eating, right? So even though they didn't recommend a full plant-based diet, they recommended that you did that. But if you couldn't, then it's an 80-20. They still wanted you to eat, organic white meat, if you're going to have any meats at all, etc. And so I started on the 714X. Now, here's the thing, my disease and acute leukemia is so aggressive. Just give you an example. They would do a bone marrow biopsy, and if you've, trust me, if you've never had one of these, you don't ever want one. And that's where they drill into the back of your hip, your backbone, the very hip bone, and they take a corkscrew type needle and they drill into it, and then they pull the bone marrow out of your hip.
Yeah.
There were times I could feel it in my toes almost. It was, literally pulling the marrow into a syringe, and it was all the way from
all the marrow.
It was horrible. It's cruel. It's cruel is what it is.
Yeah.
Totally unnecessary.
Well, it is. And the reason that they would do that with me is, and I've had about 15 of those, and, and again, like, it's funny that after all these years, I've never really thought about it, but, they would pull a chip of bone off, they'd pop a chip off. I've got holes all over in the back of my back, in my hip area, where you could literally feel it. It feels like Swiss cheese back there.
Wow.
They just take a sample along with the bone marrow. But anyway, so what they would do is they see a blast. So acute leukemia, acute AML, or acute non-lymphocytic leukemia, is the immature white blood cells. So, they would do a blood test and they would see a blast. So, let's just call it a normal blood cell would be the size of a quarter. And I would have one about the size of a dime that was, kind of mutated, looked like a quarter moon. As soon as they saw that, right, that was considered a relapse. Okay. So now I have leukemia. My leukemia is back, which I'll explain to you about why remission is nothing but a big lie, in my opinion. And let me just say this right off the bat too, is that everything I'm saying here is my opinion. All right. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell anybody anything, but I have my own beliefs, and this is it. So remission is a lie. Okay. I was never in remission. Remission doesn't exist. Okay. I always had leukemia from the day I had it until the day I didn't. Okay. And every remission in between was nothing but, the fact that they couldn't see the actual symptoms that could show up in the actual blood analysis.
So just
in the parlance, remission is a 30-day cycle where they can't bill you anymore.
Well, when you
be that too, yeah.
when you put it that way, are we talking about just like a lull in the virus itself? Then, I mean, much like with HIV, I mean, people they get medicine. The levels for it go away to the point where it looks like people don't have it, but then if they go off the medicine, then it flares back up again, right. And then it can develop into something more serious. So the same thing with leukemia. That's crazy.
Exactly. Well, see, so I had to try to figure this out. I'm just that kind of person. Look, I'm a truth seeker. I want the truth no matter what, and I want to know what. So how do I put this into how do I make sense of this? So here's my simple analogy. Okay. So first of all, with all the research that I had done up to this point, also knowing that leukemia is a virus, we know that the virus can be 100,000 within a red blood cell or a white blood cell, et cetera. They're so small. They're like 1/15 millionth of a millimeter, 1/15th micron or whatever, which other researchers have proven that, like Royal Rife, et cetera. So they're so small that 100,000 of them can actually inhabit a cell, right? So the way I had to look at it was this, if a house is the cell and the mice in the house were the viruses, how do you destroy the mice when the actual molecule of chemo is larger than the mice, smaller than the house, right? But how do you poison the mouse if you can't give them the poison because it's 10 times larger than it, right?
Yeah.
You can destroy the house with
the village, but we saved the child.
Exactly. You could destroy the house, right? Then what do you do? So basically when you're looking at someone's blood cells, it's virus ridden. Okay. And then all of a sudden you destroy the house that is actually what you're looking at to see that it's virus ridden. And then you let every one of those 100,000 mice go and you destroy all the houses in the entire community, because that's what they do with acute leukemia. They destroy everything, white blood cells, red blood cells, everything. Like I said, here's life, here's death. We want you right in the middle. So that's why when they kill all of my cells, and they give me blood transfusions, platelet transfusions, right? The whole point is to bring the blood to, obviously I've got to have it to live, but then my body will start producing new red blood cells, etc. So if all, 50 trillion mice are running around, as soon as they're able to, re-inhabit the new houses are being built, then all of a sudden you have a relapse, and to me that's how I had to make sense of it.
Well,
whether that's true or not, again, it's my opinion.
I mean, right? It sounds like a good analogy to me. I mean, it makes sense. So, Charlie, how does 714X then go after the leukemia virus when it's in somebody's body like this?
The simple one-sentence answer of why and how this medicine works is that it, as Rick just said, it liquefies the lymphatic system, which is busy collecting all the toxins and trying to cleanse your body.
Mm-hmm.
It also swims. Your brain is surrounded by lymphatic tissue, which is why this is so successful with brain cancer. But anyway, what the medicine does, all cancer secretes a hormone that blocks the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG for short. And all it does is shut off that signal, and then the body's natural immune system takes over and wipes out the cancer in a nutshell.
Okay. So is it?
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if the method of it acting on the way that it acts in the cancer. I mean, is that similar to how it acts, in curing or treating other sicknesses? Is it? Yeah. It just allows the immune system to go ahead and go after it?
That is correct. Such as AIDS, we have people who've used it for AIDS, cytomegalovirus, general malaise.
Which I had, cytomegalovirus, yeah.
Just if you want to do, we did numerous times 3 21-day cycles. It's a 21-day cycle and a 3-day break. So once a year, if you do 3 cycles, you're good. We have a blood test. We have 2 blood tests, but the one that is available, we can pre-diagnose cancer 2 years before it occurs and eliminate it 100% at that stage. So this is primary reason why it was such a big threat to the cancer industry, the multi-trillion-dollar cancer industries, because quite frankly, if we have the technology to test everyone once a year and tell them, okay, look, get in there for 3 cycles of this medicine, for example, and keep them cancer-free for the balance of their life. Now, that's a huge threat to a multi-trillion-dollar industry that is very vicious. They're focused solely on their own
treating symptoms, not preventing or curing anything, right?
Right.
So, after you started using the 714X, how quickly did you begin to see the benefits of it?
Well, so when I started on the 714X, all right, I could right away tell I had more energy. I felt cleaner. I felt lighter. So let me kind of. I mean, I tore through this information. I was downloading this information like crazy. Immediately as soon as I learned about the 714X, I was on daily phone calls to Gaston Nasons and his laboratory, and his sons at the time, who were working up there in the lab, which were Andre, Stefan, and Daniel. And again, here I am. By this time, I'm still 27 years old. I'm dying of leukemia, is what they're telling me. I never felt like I was, but again, and so I'm calling up here and I'm trying to save my life. I just went through a quick relapse, and I'm ready to go into another one. So I started feeling better, and maybe it was a combination of everything. Once I got out of the chemos and my blood counts came back and I started to feel good again, it was 60 days and I was relapsing again. And if I were to just let it go, which I did at that point, after my 3rd chemo, or my 2nd official relapse, which we know that there was probably 3 in there, because, even though the second one, the first one, I went to the 2nd chemo before I could actually get a relapse. It still would have happened anyway. So by the time it was my third relapse, I'm, you feel pretty good when you're done if you make it through it. And so I'm coming back. I went up to get blood tests done because, when you start to dig into this research, you're going to see that, like if you go to YouTube and you do a search for Gaston-Nason's blood analysis and his somatidian orthobiology, you'll see what you can see in his particular blood test and the somatidian, process.
Which is included in this book. You get the pictures, you get the story, you get the whole thing.
Right.
You guys, I would say that it's probably a lot more difficult now to find that information. This video was demonetized in the first 5 minutes, and all we basically did was mention that you could, treat cancer. We didn't even make any claims specifically about anything.
So this one...
Yes.
This one that we're on right now.
Yes.
They demonetized it already.
Yeah, already. Yep, within that first 5 minutes. So
wow.
I'm just, so this is just my plug for you guys to go and look into getting Charlie's book, because it may not be as easy as it once was to get the information that you want just by going to YouTube. It's a shame, but Dave is asking what the 2 blood tests are, Charlie, if you can talk about that real briefly.
Let me make one brief political comment.
Okay.
George Herbert Walker Bush's relative was a patient of our chief investigator, Dr. Schildwechter. And Dr. Schildwechter at the time, world famous, had his own clinic in Plaza Santa Maria, Jamaica. And I would say of the pantheon of doctors, he's a giant. I mean, he was just incredible. Professor of medicine, University of Pennsylvania, and accolades that fill 2 inches of paper. And he was treating this Bush relative, which is unidentified, unnamed, of course. And he saw the cancer go away. And being as smart as he is, he said, why? How come? What did you do? And as soon as he found out, he immediately went to see Nason. He and I got together at the same time, and we teamed up, and then that's how it started he became our chief investigator. We brought in Dr. Robert Atkins from New York City and a dozen other famous doctors all over the United States. And that was the beginning of our institutional review board. The blood test that Nason does, he's got a $500,000 microscope in his lab. He's deceased now, by the way.
Right.
He died at the ripe old age of 92, if I'm not mistaken. And Rick, I believe, had a microscope at one point, and you can see.
Yes, I did.
You'll see the pictures in this book where you can see the somatid. So it's called somatidian orthobiology. You can see that we have in our blood a life force like that you could say like a butterfly. We have the 3-stage life cycle in a normal body, but when a body starts to degenerate, the milieu, or the whole body, when you have cancer, it's not just a tumor, it's your whole body. So by repairing the terrain, or the whole milieu, as the French say, the whole being, you can't cut cancer out, you can't burn cancer out, you can't poison it out. So you could do it through the blood test. Now at the time they were training lab people. They had an eyepiece, so they didn't have to have a $500,000 machine. They just put this eyepiece
condenser. Yeah, it was a light condenser that actually would allow for the ultraviolet and the bending of the light source. Which I had on my microscope.
Right,
also.
So it was doable for a couple $100.
Yeah, couple thousand, but yeah.
Whatever, But
yeah.
Dr. Schildwechter simultaneously had spent 20 years developing a chemical blood test where you draw off, a little bit of blood. They spin off the plasma, and that's then evaluated as to, is there any metastatic? Is there four different markers. So with his test is the most highly calibrated test in the world. It's available now. It's $395, and it'll confirm or deny, or confirm or it'll confirm or deny that you have cancer. It'll tell you if you have metastatic activity, and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if I've answered the question adequately.
Charlie, our guest, our call-in has arrived. I'm sorry, what was the name, so I can change it so the phone number doesn't show up on the screen? The individual you gave the phone number to call into the show?
Oh, Kirsten.
Kirsten. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Kirsten, I just want to let you know I was changing your phone number so that people won't see it on the screen. All right, so now Kirsten is here. Hello, Kirsten, can you hear us?
Yes, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing good, thank you.
This is
Excellent.
Dr. Silvector's daughter. She now administrates or oversees the collection of for the blood test. So I would highly recommend anybody who has any idea or thought that they may have it, or they want to prevent having it, or they're in the middle of having it, this blood test is invaluable.
And Kirsten, how can people reach out to you if they're interested in getting that blood test done?
They're welcome to email us at JC, the number 4, the word cure, CURE @gmail.com, or they may send a message to us, not cell phone but landline, 772-461-4121. And please leave your full name for the person who's interested in taking the blood sample, and the address and your phone number.
And I'm sorry, Kirsten, could you give me that phone number one more time? I'm adding it to the description of the video so that...
Sure. It's 772-461-4121.
Okay,
Please
thank
leave
you.
In case we miss you, leave the full name and address, especially the city of where you would have the blood drawn at a local laboratory.
All right, and for the audience, I've put that in the description box. I've also added it to the chat. So jc4cure@gmail.com and 772-461-4121. If you don't see it in the description box there, then you can get it in the chat. All right, so what kind of a turnaround is there on that blood test, Kirsten?
From the moment we receive the sample, it gets Federal Express to the laboratory, and we have the first results within about 6 days. And the final results, because we do 5 tests, within 10 days, we have the report.
All right. And what can you see by doing this blood test? What are people going to see when they get the results back?
Well, in established cancer diagnosis, we can see still existing primary and or cancer activity. We can see how strong or weak the activity is. We see the entire strength and weakness of the immune system, the person's defense system, as well as the liver. And we can also see the risk of developing an immune-deficient disease like cancer up to 2 years ahead of time.
That's incredible. That's quite a bit better than just going to a standard hospital. When my father was diagnosed with cancer, August 5th, 2009, that was the date of the diagnosis. He was gone by October 6th.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Kirsten, what is the accuracy of this test?
It's up to 98% accurate. That's, the beautiful thing that my father pursued. He said if you go into a local laboratory and ask if you could have a blood test to see if you have cancer or not, they may offer you a CEA test or a prostate PSA test. The problem is that the results are up to 65% inaccurate, and you can't bet your life on that.
Wow.
And it's pretty crazy to make treatment decisions not knowing exactly what the situation is. So he took existing markers that all had a high inaccuracy rate, and he said, I've got to be able to perfect this. So he found, after years of searching, he found a gentleman who already had a laboratory who was willing to invest the money to recalibrate all his machines. And it took thousands of dollars and several years, but they finally came up to it. They got to 80% accuracy, 90% accuracy, and by 95, they said, all right, this is something we can work with. So they put all of them together, which help mirror the whole body. It's not just one marker. And there's also another marker in there, which is a CEA test, and there's several different scientists who offer it, and we use the most sensitive method that then also mirrors possible involvement in other organs. And when you look at it completely together, you're able to form a much, much better picture than having any one test or even 2 tests by themselves.
Kirsten, can this test be covered by insurance, or is this totally out of pocket?
If a medical doctor is interested in writing a script for it and supporting it, absolutely. When my father was alive, it was covered by insurance companies, even Medicaid and Medicare. Since he has passed away, I have remained the agent to the laboratory, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a healthcare professional, but I don't carry the medical license that is required for insurance companies to cover it.
I'd like to add a note about Dr. Schildbechter. He developed two remedies for two types of cancer back in the 80s, and himself was busted by the medical authorities who used the force of this country. They handcuffed him on the long staff back in '86 because he was teaching, or he was able to eliminate squamous cell cancer using an innocuous form of vitamin A, and he was also able to eliminate melanomas with massive doses of vitamin C. And I think, Kirsten, you might have been there when that happened. I'm not sure, but you were.
Yeah. That, the interesting thing is they took him to court 17 times, and he won every single case. But it was their tactic to try to weaken the person, get him so discouraged that they finally give up and stop doing what they're doing. So I saw him age many years in that short time, but he prevailed each and every time.
I saw someone else in the chat just asking about the cost of the test. If this is not covered by insurance, can you give us an idea of what someone could expect to pay out of pocket? Although I would say, guys, if it's something that you're thinking about having done, I think your doctor might be, willing to write a prescription for this if it's going to be covered by your insurance company. But Kirsten, do you have any idea what that would be out of pocket?
Sure, and I would be happy to work with any doctor who's interested in it. And we have lots of information written from a doctor to a doctor, and
good,
for education purposes. But the cost of the test is $395. The testing part is $298, which covers 5 tests and Federal Express charges, and the balance is the cost to put the report together and scan the summary of medical records of the patient.
Wow, that's really a drop in the bucket when it comes down to it, especially considering, just all of the preventative things that you can do, every year in order to, that a lot of people do to keep themselves healthy and stave off something like that. But again, you guys, like Kirsten just said, if you are thinking about having this test done and you speak to your doctor about it, they can speak with your doctor and work with them to make sure that it is covered by your insurance. This is something that I myself am going to go ahead and have done because, I have a history of cancer in my family. It's not just my father. It was my grandparents as well, my grandmother, and other people in my family. So I would really be interested, and not to mention the fact that I smoked cigarettes for 20 years. I probably am at a bit of a disadvantage.
I would say don't count on any doctor actually helping you with this test, but you can try.
Yeah, definitely try. But then the other thing too.
In the written material that's in this book, there's a letter that was written by Dr. Schildbechter to Medicare, to the administrators, that explained it in such a way that could be used. You can still submit it for insurance, whether they may or may not cover it, whether you get a prescription.
Right. And let me say something here real quick too. First of all, cancer is a human thing. It is not a genetically family thing. It's a lifestyle thing. Okay. And if you're living the lifestyle that your parents were, your chances of getting it are that much greater. But cancer is human. It's not genetic so much. There are genetic forms of cancer, of course, but it is to me, again, my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but everything I've learned about is that it's a lifestyle thing.
And if I may interject something in this, because we had cancer in our family too. Grandma had it, luckily not till she was in her 90s, and she beat one type and then got another. But my dad proved with this test back in 1979 that if you catch it early, it's completely preventable.
Absolutely.
So even if people have it in their genetic history, it puts you at a higher risk, but it's still completely preventable. So
that's right.
As far as cutting off body parts and breasts, it's not the way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
The power that goes behind the suggestion that just because your mom and dad had heart disease, you're going to have it too. It's just, it's a powerful thing, and we're about to learn the truth in a much bigger way. So.
And yeah, I see people calling me out for the damage to my lungs. I've already reversed all the damage. I live healthy. Other than the fact that I had smoked for all that time. But Kirsten, could you tell us the name of these tests again that would be done?
It's a cancer and immune profile blood test.
Cancer and immune profile
also known
blood
as
test.
Cancer spectrum and immune profile. Also, wanted to share one more thing.
Please.
So many people who may have cancer or may not have cancer and want to do something about it, especially if you know that you have cancer, it's almost impossible to know how aggressive you need to be because there are so many just status quo tests that don't show the activity of this cell in your body. They may show a size of something. You can't really tell if it's dormant or not. If it's scar tissue, too many doctors jump on the fact, hey, I see a size of something in you. Let's go ahead and do chemo. Let's do radiation. Let's cut it out. Even though cancer really grows from the inside out, the body has to be in just the right position to grow it. It's still very difficult to know, hey, I want to do something natural. How aggressive do I need to be? I have been there 3 times myself through different times of my life when I stopped taking care of myself, a lot of stress. I took my health for granted. I knew I was close to it, and I took the test, and I saw, okay, this is a real danger zone right now. What did you do? What did you do to reverse it? I started taking my enzymes, special formula enzymes. I'm not sure if Charlie talked about them, but it's a 32-year researched product. I started taking another product that helped stop the active formation of feeder veins. You know, when you have cancer, it likes to actively multiply. I started taking mega doses of vitamin C. I stopped the toxic influence of my life. I got rid of
stress,
people that
anxiety,
that were just not healthy for me, that I spent way too much energy on, at least for a certain amount of time until I could get my head straight. I did proper nutrition, all whole food.
That's right. Whole food, plant-based.
Yeah, juicing, and I also do nutritional consulting where I'm able to see which foods the person's body thrives on in every category, from fruits to vegetables, meats, you name it, and eliminate everything that drained me so that I could use all the energy to focus on getting well.
Excellent.
And luckily, within 3 months, I had the best blood values I've ever had in my life.
That's incredible.
Right. So the same way you would reverse it, you would prevent it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just a couple of quick things from the audience. Kay Good had asked if I knew that the whistleblower attorney, Mark Zaid, has an access level of Q that needs to be revoked. I believe you on that one, and I agree with you. Alan Mockin says, dual lung cancer survivor, 6 years remission. My CEA marker was off the charts both times. I am still worried, and it will come back someday. I will have my oncologist order this test. Probably a good idea. Again, Alan and everyone else in the audience, if you want the phone number and the email address to reach Kirsten, it's in the description of this video. And if people still can't find it, I'll just put it in the chat again. Then Dale Bercier says, this topic hits home. I have lost a few family members, including my mother. Keep exceeding, brother. Well, thank you for that, Dale. I think that this topic probably hits home with every single person in the audience, because I don't know a single person who hasn't lost at least one, close family member to cancer or to some type of, autoimmune disease, life-threatening illness, something that could quite, obviously have been prevented with a test like this. It's not a death sentence. You don't have to die. We've got the proof right here in Rick, and in Kirsten both, how to reverse it and then keep yourself healthy. I always joke around when people tell me I don't look 41, I say eat organic, eat simple, whole foods. Okay, if you want to be healthy, don't eat chemicals. They want you to eat chemicals, and chemicals are present in everything. All of the fake ingredients that you eat in processed foods every day, they are killing you, and you take a look at people all over the world. Everyone's getting sicker and sicker and sicker. You know, I mean, I still get cold virus and stuff like that, you know, but I mean, I knock it out of the park with some vitamin C over the course of a couple of days, and then I'm good. But, you know, this is the kind of thing that I am definitely going to be doing myself, because I've seen too many people die from cancer, and I don't want to have to be that another one. I want to be here for my daughter.
Where there's life, there's hope. My father he actually specialized in helping late-stage cancer patients, and other doctors from around the world would call him and send their patients that had anywhere from 2 weeks to maybe 2 years left to live. And even doctors who gave up on them, by doing the blood test, he was able to see how radical you had to be. Every now and then, there was a patient that needed chemo for a very short amount of time just to pull back the aggressiveness, but then we were able to come in and with natural methods wrap our arms around it and shrink it. So there's hope until the very last day. There's
Absolutely.
always something
I'd like to make 2 comments. One, the statistics today: 1 out of 2 will have cancer in their lifetime. That's half the
second leading cause of death. Yeah. And
the other is all of this material that Kirsten is talking about, that Rick is talking about. Everything is discussed in great detail in our book, Do No Harm.
In the book.
And the best weapon is to become informed. Maybe today you think, I'm not going to get cancer, or you think it's bogus or whatever. I understand. I've been doing this almost 30 years, and I've seen so many people. In fact, last time I was on with Red Pill, approximately 70,000 people looked at the website where it offered the book. And out of that, maybe 300 actually ordered the book out of 70,000 clicks. So that, and then a few people have contacted and started on a therapy. So,
well, you know, I wish that more people would, but at least if we reached one person, the idea that we could, save a single life, I mean, that's pretty awesome. You guys, I'm going to open up the phones now for the guests to call in and ask questions. Looks like we have our first caller, Trisha Barton. Trisha, are you there? Well, Trisha, while you're getting your microphone figured out, I just want to give everyone directions. I dropped the Zoom link in the chat box. That's if you want to call in using your mobile phone on the app, or you want to use the app on your computer. If you have to call in using just a regular phone and you don't have an app, or you don't know how to download it, the phone number and the meeting ID is now in the description of the video. Also, the link to use the app is in the description of the video. Trisha, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Trisha. Thanks for calling. You're on the air with Charles, Kirsten, and Rick. What can we do for you?
Oh, Kirsten's not there anymore?
No, Kirsten, I said her name too.
Good. I'm sorry. I didn't see her, but yes. I don't have cancer, but I just had a massive heart attack. If I hadn't made it to the hospital, I wouldn't be here today. So I'm wondering, in that blood testing, do you find the reasons why? I mean, does what you do show things like that?
One of the things that I see when the immune system gets low, for example, is that the body seems to be going in haywire. Everything starts acting up, which certainly could cause a heart attack. But it doesn't show specifically heart health in this test. It would show the whole strength or weakness of your body's own defense system, including the liver.
Oh, good. Yeah, I feel like with all the pills that they put me on after that, I mean, it's just a handful. I worry about my liver and kidneys. So
yeah, always look at a physician's desk reference or a nurse's desk reference if you get a prescription drug, to educate yourself about the side effects. So at least you can try to prevent damage to that organ.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, it's not you.
One of the markers in this blood test is DHEA. The other is Pkwy. CEA is another. But the DHEA is secreted by the liver, and that God has given us the ability to repair genes with the DHEA that's secreted by your liver naturally. Not the DHEA you buy at the health food store. We're talking about naturally secreted by your liver. So this one of the markers of the immune profile is to see how, as Kirsten mentioned, it tests your liver, and that's what it's looking for.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I just wanted to put a little disclaimer on to be really, really careful. I recommend not to use a hormone DHEA, which a lot of people do, thinking they can improve the body's production. It actually sends a signal to the brain that the body no longer needs to produce much of it, and the organ becomes weaker. And in the DHEA situation, it's one of the most crucial things to have the body produce on its own.
You know, that's interesting. DHEA is one of those popular supplements that I see people recommending that you take.
Scary.
That's crazy.
We had my dad had a cancer patient who had a liquid cancer that kept growing, not into organs but around the organs, and he had surgery after surgery to drain it and remove it, and finally the doctors gave up and they wouldn't do any more surgery. And he had always hung in there. He did many natural things, and always recovered and had a quality of life and traveled and was slowed down by another surgery but came back. Well, he decided to take DHEA. First of all, he didn't know how much his own body produced. Nobody can really measure that into the detail. He took a small amount, and within a very short amount of time, his body stopped being strong in the immune system. It stopped producing DHEA, and he died within 5 months.
Oh,
and
so
he had
sad.
been with us for well over 10 years. So that was our first eye-opener.
All right, we do have a couple more callers on the line. First up is God's Guy. God's Guy, it is a pleasure to have you back on the podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Excellent. So I think I can still hear somebody still has the podcast going in the background. If you can just make sure that one's muted. But Guy, what did you want to ask of Kirsten, Rick, and Charlie?
Well, folks, I watched a really informative show. It was called What the Health. It's a documentary about processed meats, various other types of cancer-causing foods that are being produced. And we have a friend, and his name is George Probescu, who went to Europe and had this same process done to him, who had lymphomic cancer, and he was cured completely by this frequency generating machine. And I think I shared that with Red Pill, and hopefully he can get in touch with him.
Yep. Rick, this is George was cured with the same type of Rife machine that we had spoken about before. We haven't mentioned the Rife machine yet on the air tonight, but Rick, can you tell us a little bit about the Rife technology?
Well, when I was researching this information, Larry Bird, I think Christopher Bird, there I am again. But Christopher Bird, I think, mentioned in his book about, back in the 1930s, Royal Raymond Rife, had developed a microscope that was able to view, microorganisms on a 60,000 times level without killing them with stain. He could actually view them live in their own environment. And, once I was introduced to the 714X book, it started to lead me into the whole Rife story also. Now, the thing about Nason's and his research is that it mirrored pretty much what Rife was doing, 50 years before that. And that, even Antoine Béchamp was involved in way back in the day, talking about, the different, about the somatids, Antoine Béchamp all the way back in the day. Also, and Rife, talking about potential 16 stages in the blood, just like Nason's research. And so, it started to tie all this stuff together. So I had such an aggressive disease. I mean, like I said, literally you would see a blast in my blood and 60 days later, 99% of my blood cells were leukemia. That's how quick and fast this grew. And that's why I had to do these high dose rounds of chemo. I trust me, I didn't want to do them, but I had to literally destroy all the blood cells in my body. Otherwise, the 99% white blood cells were pushing everything out, and it was causing me, obviously the secondary infections and everything would have happened. So, yeah. So my research and where I eventually had to head to was I stayed on the 714X, and it was definitely a part of my protocol, and it was definitely a part of my survival. But I went even deeper, and I had to go even deeper. So through the help of Gaston Nasons and his sons, his stepsons in Canada, I was introduced to a research group in Ohio at the time named Open Sesame. And Nasons is the one that pointed me in that direction. I obtained an advice, and I actually had a device that was manufactured as a duplicate from one of the original Rife devices back in the 1930s. And literally, on my final relapse after my bone marrow transplant in 1994, doing the Rife tech, doing the 714X, doing the Gerson therapy, doing everything that I could possibly think of, adding the Rife device to it. It took about 5 weeks, and that's when my blood counts stopped dropping and went into a normal range. And so I definitely am. I still deal with Rife technology today. But I would not ever go into cancer with just a Rife machine. Yeah.
May I say something?
Please, Charlie.
It's very good. We're covering so many areas that there's no silver bullet. I mean, there's what Kirsten's dad,
that's right,
Phil Beckley, would say. This is a mosaic. It's a moving mosaic. Yeah. And we always saw 714X as the cornerstone. And then you build around it. You're changing your diet. If you're capable of finding the Rife technology that's actually works. I mean, some of them
that's real, the actual true technology.
Some out there that are good ones, but they're hard to find and they're expensive. I mean, I think Rick, you paid back in the '90s $9,000. Today that would be, probably 20. So hard to find. But the point is, as God's guy just mentioned, it's out there. But if you're not willing to do the legwork and the homework and the study,
education first.
You're going to the hospital. I mean, I'll give you the best example I can as a testimony. We have a client in Pittsburgh. The lady was told she had MMA, which is uterine cancer that's incurable. That's what they were told at Sloan Kettering. She basically thumbed her nose at them. She started with, I think with Kirsten, I'm not sure, but she started with 714X, and I believe she was on the enzymes as well. She went back this year, and she was completely cancer-free. Sloan Kettering brought the entire department over to inquire what's going on here. She was incurable, and now she has no cancer. And she told them what she had done. And Sloan told them, oh, come on, this doesn't work. You're going to die. And that's how the industry received information of this nature. So science has always been like that. It takes years and years and years for things to be accepted. And the only way it's going to be, the only person we can change is ourselves. I can't change anybody else. It can only change me. And the only way you're going to defeat, if you want to see change in the healthcare industry or the political industry or any other industry, you have to be that change. You have to take part in it. You have to investigate. You have to become knowledgeable. Otherwise, you're just moving along with like a stick in the water. You're at the mercy of the motion.
All right. God's guy, we're getting some feedback from your mic, so I'm going to drop you out of this call, buddy. Thank you for calling. We're going to move on to Pontifex. And it looks like we have another caller that just showed up. Pontifex, are you there? We'll go ahead and
I'm here. Who am I?
Well, you are somebody else, but hold on. We got Pontifex coming up before you. Pontifex, you are unmuted. Can you hear me?
Hey, Red Pill, yeah.
All right. And what can we do for you tonight? You're on the air.
Yeah, man. So my name's Jake. I'm a huge fan. From the start of your channel.
Thanks, Jake.
I'm a musician and network engineer, and I'm kind of taking a shot in the dark with this question, but my wife has a high chance of having Huntington's disease. So I was curious as to your guys' take on, the health industry, on what you'd recommend, like a good way to start a rabbit hole research and stuff, or if there's any chance of, slowing or delaying that kind of stuff.
Well, as you said, it's a chance. She's been threatened. Mm-hmm. So that's either may or may not occur, but definitely the enzyme therapy, diet change, lifestyle change, oxygenate the body through aerobics or some other means. The 714X is always good. We always did. It's a 21-day cycle treatment. I, for many years, have done 3 cycles every year, just for GP, but just to keep the body in good shape. And there are others. You can just use it for just general health. So to give you a direct answer for Huntington's, can't do it. But for overall, that's my answer.
Awesome,
Have you guys done anything yet, Pontifexus? Anything that you're looking into, or are you really just starting out?
Yeah, we're doing CBD meditation. Like 432 hertz.
Yes.
Prayer, and yeah, she's already pretty healthy. She loves
Good.
all stuff. But
good. I'm glad to hear it.
I just thought I'd call in and see what you guys had to say.
Are you just curious? Are you heading towards a plant-based diet? Are you still eating animal products?
We're eating animal products, but we're actually in a relatively remote community, so it's like an hour drive to a decent grocery store. So we've kind of resorted to subscription-based models. Yeah. We've got good delivery, right. So we got like farm-raised or grass-fed beef coming in, but we haven't switched to full plant-based now.
Can I just a little bit of my advice? Research it. Okay, research the difference between the two, especially with your disease, and find out especially what anyone else who's dealing with your disease has had in an effect of plant-based whole foods, no oil, no added salt or sugar. Okay, compared to anybody that's even slightly having an animal diet whatsoever. Okay, because I mean, me personally, I'm a whole food plant-based vegan. I'm 100% whole foods. So and I if anyone ever asked me, no matter what kind of disease it was, what should I do first? Well, the very first thing you can do is decide what goes in your mouth today and the very next time you eat. Okay. And there's a whole lot of truth out there now. The jury's not out anymore. Okay. The facts are in, and look in that direction, please.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Jake, thank you for calling in, buddy, and thanks for watching.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yep, you too. Have a great night.
I'd like to make a quick comment about the book. People are ordering, and thank you.
Excellent.
But if you enter Red Pill code, you enter the code Red Pill, you get a $5 discount. And those who've already purchased, I will refund the $5 because we didn't state it in the beginning.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Well, very cool. Very, very cool. Looks like we have another caller, Jesse. How are you, Jesse? Well, while Jesse's getting that together, just want to remind everyone that if you do want to buy the book, if you'd like to talk to Kirsten about getting a blood test, if you'd like to join the conversation, all of that information is in the description of this video. Looks like we lost Jesse. So we do have another 45 minutes of available for people to call in and ask your questions. Now, Rick, are there any other things that you've done to increase your health and well-being since being first diagnosed? Anything that we haven't spoken about yet?
Yeah, there is. In fact, I've been thinking about, how could I help all the people that are, here on the show with just, everyday, things that are going on. And I'm not the brilliant mind behind all of these alternative natural solutions, but I can tell you one thing. I've been sent home to die. I've been given 3 days to live. Sent home from the hospital after being in a chemotherapy where I developed an infection, and literally went home and to put my affairs in order, et cetera, and came back on Monday. Right. That's how my doctor thought I was. Right. But for instance, there's a lot of people out there dealing with, simple things like candida. OK, I was getting IV antibiotics, and of course, antibiotics destroys every bit of, good flora, microbiome, intestinal bacteria that you have. I had thrush, which is a yeast form. It's yeast so bad that my mouth was coated white, my nose, my eyes, my butt was coated white. I mean, it was severe. So in the hospital, after going through high doses of IV antibiotics, okay, and having that type of thing happen is exactly what kills a cancer patient like myself. So of course, trying to give me all of the medicines that the pharmaceutical industry had for me didn't work. Right. Oh. So again, my friends in Canada, Gaston Nasons, his sons, Andre, Danielle and Stefan, they told me about a product out there called Nutribiotic. Okay. So Nutribiotic is grapefruit seed extract. Okay. Now this is not grape seed extract. This is grapefruit. Okay. The citrus, grapefruit seed extract, and a good brand for it is called Nutribiotic. And let me tell you something, for what was going to kill me, okay, in 3 days had reversed the amount of yeast that I had in my body and allowed me to get through that chemo and keep on moving. All right. What it is, this is an amazing product. Now, what it is, if we had an antibiotic that actually could target only the bad bacteria and leave the good bacteria alone, right? I mean, that would be everywhere, right? It'd be worth billions, trillions of dollars, because that's really the goal of what antibiotics are supposed to do. Well, do some research on this. And here's another thing, everything I'm saying here today is my opinion. All right. Just, don't take my word for it. Just take what I'm telling you right here and then research it. Okay. And then once you research it, you'll find that Nutribiotic, I use it for everything. Okay. I mean, it's literally a natural antibiotic that, through all of my chemo and everything, my teeth are so bad. I'd get teeth infections, gum infections. I would swish with it, swallow it. Not only does it kill yeast, it kills fungus. Soak your feet in it if you had athlete's foot. You talk about a product across the board that just is amazing. It's
Nutribiotic. Well, Rick, we've got 4 people online now, so let's move on. First, we're going to go talk to Tony. Tony, you're on the air with Rick, Kirsten, Charlie, and myself. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah, what's your question?
Oh, great. Okay, I know everything you're talking about. Grapefruit seed extract, Rife machine.
Nice.
All that. By the way, go get that grapefruit seed extract and clean your fruits and vegetables with it. That's
absolutely.
Really okay. So, I just want to know, what is the science behind the 714X, because I've never heard of this before. So where would I go? Would I have to buy the book, or is there something online? Where's the science behind the 714X?
Can I answer this? Can I answer this one, Charlie? Okay.
Sure.
So I'm just like you, right? So I'm wanting to know, how do I learn more? Number one, when I bought this book back in 1992, it was about 30 pages. Now it's over 300 pages. So there's a lot more to it. Okay. So here, what I wanted to know was, how did my cancer start, and why is 714X such an amazing product, right? Why did Gaston Nasons get thrown out of France for curing people of cancer, leukemia, etc.? And what's to this thing, right? So, to simplify it, the book is going to tell you everything. And then you can go online, and once again, don't take anybody's word for anything. Go online and research it. Start with the information, start with the facts, and then try to punch holes in it. Okay. And that's where you're going to get the majority of your info. But here's how it works. Let's just say that, the body starts to break down. Okay. The body's breaking down. You have, this, I don't know if I have enough time. Right. But so after I started to go into this whole thing, I got my own microscope. I had a $20,000 Olympus microscope. I had a Nasons condenser, one of his own condensers, that actually allowed me to view the somatids in their own environment, right? Exactly the way he did. I don't know if you know anything. I'm from Arizona. When you're in Arizona and you're out at the lake and, you want to find the scorpions, you use a black light, right? There's a light source. And you could be standing around 50,000 of them at night. You wouldn't even notice sometimes in the day until you hit the black light, and all of a sudden they illuminate. Well, through regular dark field microscopy, okay, you have one. Go search it online on YouTube and look for dark field microscopy, and you'll see what it looks like through a normal dark field microscope. Then you go and you do a search for Gaston Nasons somatidian orthobiology, and you look at the blood and you see what it is. I went to Canada, years ago, back when I was able to go up there and have a blood test done, and I got a VHS tape. I came back and I was in my 4th relapse, because remember, I had 6 relapses, right? So I was in like my 4th relapse, and my 30-year hematologist oncologist was watching this video on the screen. He looks at it and he goes, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, that's my blood." So in 30 years, he's never seen the blood look this way, because what happens is when you're using light in a specific way, it actually illuminates the somatids, and that's where you're able to see not only the 3-stage normal cycle, but also the additional 13 stages. Okay, so really the thing is when the body starts to go into a degenerative state, the somatids, which are normally a spore, double spore, okay, it's a somatid spore, double spore, starts to go into stage 4 all the way through stage 16. Okay, so what the 714X does, the first thing it does upon introduction to the system is when you inject it into the lower linguinal lymph system, the organic salts immediately. What's that?
We've got several more callers that just showed up. Tony, did that tell you enough about the science? Do you have any more questions? I think it's time we need to move on to another caller. We've got so many people waiting now.
Tony,
Yes, I think
order and read the book, Tony.
Get the book, Tony. You'll love it.
I know. Just get the book.
Just get the book.
Get the
All
book.
right.
Get the
Thank
book.
you.
All right, Tony, thank you so much
much.
for calling, and thank you for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, up next is Gypsy Nurse Kathy. Gypsy Nurse Kathy, you gave a super chat. I didn't get a chance to say thank you yet. You said that you're an RN of more than 26 years, and this is so much good info, and you have guided people so wrongly over the years, and you're very sorry. Obviously, that's through no fault of your own. I mean, you've been educated by this medical system, and they've told you what you should be doing and what you should be telling people. Have you got your microphone set up, Gypsy Nurse Kathy? I don't think you do. Check your microphone, Gypsy Nurse Kathy. While you're checking that,
is Dr. B in the audience tonight?
Dr. B, I don't know if she's in the audience or not. She wasn't earlier, but if she's here, Dr. B, say something in the chat. We're gonna go to David next. David, if you could, there we go. We've got you unmuted. David, can you hear me?
Hey, Red Pill, how y'all doing tonight?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Hey, doing great. Just had a question about if your guests have an opinion on the work of Dr. Joel Wallach. He has some philosophies that have to do with heavy vitamin and nutrient. So maybe if you have an opinion about that.
Charlie, take it.
Dr. Wallach is a great guy. I mean, I met him back in the 90s, and he was still in the formative stages of what he's become now. And he got busted in a different kind of way. He discovered in the lab, he was testing NASA's chimpanzees, I believe it was, or monkeys, or one or the other. And he discovered that they had human cystic fibrosis. So he took lung samples and gave it to experts in cystic fibrosis and said, "What is this?" And he said, "Oh, that's human cystic fibrosis." He said, "Aha, this is from a lower species, right?" So his wife is Chinese. They went to China, and they discovered a village where 100% of the people had cystic fibrosis. They did soil samples, and they discovered that the missing element is selenium. And so he treated them with selenium, and their cystic fibrosis went away. So now he thinks, I'm going to go back to, he was a professor at Emory University in Georgia, and he came back thinking they were going to hand him a Nobel Prize, and they handed him his briefcase and told him, "You're done." Threw him out. So what he's offering is in line with what Rick has talked about, what Plant Pure Nation talks about, and what Hippocrates talked about long ago, that
food is thy medicine.
What you put in your mouth, it's not what you put in your mouth, it's what comes out of your mouth that hurts you, is what Christ said. But the Plant Pure Nation, you can heal yourself through diet, and that was proven by Dr. Gerson in the 30s, before there was any cures for cancer available, and Max Gerson was curing people with a very strict diet. So
change the pH.
Question, but I think Joel Wallach is great.
All right, David, does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I appreciate that, because there's been a little controversy, and I really put a lot of respect into the guests that you have on your show. So thank you for sharing that opinion.
I appreciate you calling, David. Thank you for watching as well. Have a good night.
Hey, you too.
Yep, bye-bye. Kathy, have you got your mic working yet? Doesn't look like it. We're going to go to Aaron next. Aaron, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. You're on the air. What can we do for you?
Hey, so thanks for having me on. My first time. I'm really excited. But so since we're talking about health and everything, I want to go on a much radically different tangent, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I've gone much deeper down the rabbit hole than I probably should have. And one thing I've come across was it has to do with the whole secret space program thing and age regression being declassified by Donald Trump. Is that something you've heard of before by anyone on before me?
I've never had anyone on where we talked about the secret space program. It's definitely something that I've thought about quite a bit in my own time. I just never have had the opportunity to have a show on it. But I mean, are you thinking about like the idea of like the breakaway civilization? You know, like these there is like a cure exists for everything, really, in my opinion. It depends on like what level of social strata you're at, whether or not you're going to get access to it.
Gotcha.
Age regression, is that the question? Age regression?
Correct. If you're familiar, go ahead.
I can answer this question to this level. Our bodies have the capability of indefinite. The death cycle was put there by the Creator, and it's also been removed by the Creator. But that requires a certain lifestyle, requires a certain spiritual lifestyle, and it's an undertaking. You have to want to live and be joyful in your life, and that right there, that prescription alone is enough to conquer. So can you reverse your aging process? Sure. Can you live 100 years, 200 years, 300 years? I say, why not? But if you don't believe it, then I believe it. I believe that immortality exists, but get back to me in 100 years. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're breathing, so yes, you can reverse age.
Gotcha.
All right, Aaron, any other questions for the panel?
No, that'll do it for me. Thank you for your time.
Hey, buddy, thank you for calling. I do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You're very welcome. All right, up next we would have Chris. Chris, are you there? I don't see a mute next to you, so that tells me you might not have a microphone connected. Chris, I'm going to give you a few minutes to get your microphone put together, and in the meantime, we're going to go with caller 4. Caller 4, are you there? You are the one right here. I had to remove your phone number so nobody would see it. So the two callers that are on the air, somebody say something, and then we'll hear you. All right, so we have two callers. We have two people on the screen right now. I think you should know who you are if you can hear my voice asking you to speak. I'm going to unmute the other guy. Okay, how about this caller? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air with Red Pill 78 and Rick and Kirsten and Charlie. What can we do for you?
Red Pill, this is Dead Dog.
Dead Dog. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, I'm a military veteran, and like 100,000 other veterans, we went through a place called Fort McClellan, Alabama, and that's near Anniston, Alabama, where there was a plant that made PCBs. Fort McClellan was also known for the chemical core and biological weapons and stuff like that actually leak into the groundwater. A lot of us have a lot of different, let's just call them diseases for the lack of a better word. I myself have been diagnosed with everything from not Alzheimer's, but narcolepsy with cataplexy, severe and persistent restless leg syndrome, degenerative disc disease, cramp fasciculation syndrome, on and on and on and on. And I take a handful of pills in the morning to stay awake and a handful of pills at night to go to sleep. Is this something for me? And number two, I seen you guys talking about blood tests. Is there a way to test to see if I was actually exposed to something?
I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I'm considered 100% disabled. So thank you for your service. I know that there's
Thank you for yours.
There's cancer pockets. What do they call them? Cancer, where there's a whole village kind of thing. This is more than one place in the military establishment. There's cancer clusters and disease clusters. First of all, you've been given diagnosis by the allopathic industry. My suggestion would be to change channels. Try a homeopath. Try somebody who's into Ayurveda, the ancient arts. Also, listen to what Rick has said about diet. That is a big factor. You have basically
Huge.
Basically in a nutshell, what you've said is you need to detox. So we've all been radiated. The whole planet has been radiated. I mean, in the 70s, 60s, and 50s, 60s, 70s, they were set off thousands of nuclear detonations in Nevada and Utah and California. And Fukushima is bleeding off into the ocean right now. On top of that, we've got glyphosate, and it's everywhere. Our food is poisoned, the air is poisoned, the water is poisoned. So we have to do everything in our power to eliminate those toxins. I have a Aquapure, I think what's it called? I have the same thing the Red Pill has. Aquapure, a water purifier. Even though our water here in New York comes from the Finger Lakes, but those Finger Lakes are open to the sky, and they're sending stuff through the sky now. So detox. The answer is detox. And yes, 714X could help you. The proteolytic enzymes that we discuss and have access to, they will help. But I would say that the chemicals that you're ingesting from the prescriptions, that's only exacerbating the toxicity, not eliminating it.
Kirsten, with regard to his question about the blood test that your lab could do for him, is there any additional information that you'd get from it, or just those indications that you'd have cancer? Like, perhaps would you see, information from those markers that could tell you things about that have happened to you in the past?
It's really specific on finding the risk of getting an immune deficient disease, which unfortunately all those things working together can, be a detriment to the immune system. It's specific on that, the immune system, the liver, and when there's organ involvement, the CEA test will also go haywire, which makes us then look further into it. But it's not specific on, I think, what you're looking for.
Okay. Do you know of any blood tests that would do that?
Certainly, I'd have to do some research. But definitely, there are definitely different involvements that will show markers that can be detoxified. I wouldn't know the names of them right now, but I could get back to you if you want to send me an email. I'll look into it and let you know.
Well, Kirsten, Dr. Schilvechter's blood test for this gentleman would be ideal to see what's going on with your immune system, what's going on with your liver, are you at threat for cancer? If you've had all that noxious PCBs and so forth, that's a huge threat. The fact that you've made it this far, I don't know when you were in the service, but the fact that you're still here is a testament to your will to live, and that's also a factor in all of it.
Excellent.
And the nice thing is when you zero in on rebuilding the immune system and eliminating what pulls it down, it doesn't matter what disease you have, what you're diagnosed with. It is designed to help rebuild and regenerate you from head to toe.
All right, Dead Dog. Thank you so much for calling, bud. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, bro.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Maybe change your handle to Live Dog.
You guys, Chris has stated that he can't get his microphone to work. He's asking, Chris, are you there? Can you hear me, Chris? I see that the mute option is available to me, so it should be working.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
I don't know who it is that I'm hearing. Is that Chris?
I'm a female, so yes.
Yes. Okay. You just say your name. It doesn't. Chris could go either way, so I wanted to make sure that it was you before I said Chris. Chris, go ahead and ask your question. Thank you.
Mistake. A number of autoimmune diseases.
Chris, it's not coming through very clear. I'm just going to read your question from the chat. We're having trouble hearing a full word. But Chris said that she has several autoimmune problems: diabetes, asthma, plus celiac disease. So celiac disease, maybe. There you go. Celiac, yep, celiac disease. And wants to know if you have any suggestions. Rick, I think that pretty much all of the suggestions you've been given all night would be applicable in this situation.
And also, absolutely enzyme.
Enzyme.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, still, celiac disease obviously is a wheat allergy intolerance or whatever. But again, I'm not a doctor, but the research, the jury is not out anymore. Okay, that all of the things that you just mentioned, okay, without any doubt whatsoever, if you just look in this direction, I'm going to point you in the right direction. It's called a whole food plant-based diet. Okay. And watch and the China study by Dr. T. Colin Campbell is a great source. Also, How Not to Die by Dr. Greger. You're gonna see a lot of research that has been done through very, very simple dietary changes that has had such an amazing effect on all of what you just mentioned. And I would start there. Okay. And here's the thing about everything we're talking about here tonight is all non-toxic. Not one person has talked about anything that had any side effects, can harm you in any way. Everything that we're doing and we're talking about is a natural way to come at whatever it is that you're dealing with, okay, and without risk whatsoever. So you can add it to whatever you're doing. Don't stop taking your pills. Don't start coming off your medication. Work with your doctor, okay? But start taking some of the things that you're doing that's toxic and start moving to the non-toxic realm of things, and just watch how fast things happen. It's amazing because I see it all the time because I talk to people all the time about it.
All right, Chris. Any other questions if your mic's working? All right. Well, thank you for calling, Chris. I do appreciate it. And we'll talk to you the next time. All right. So we had caller 4 was up first in the line. Caller 4, you're the one at the bottom of the screen. You've been on the line for a while now. So if you can hear me right now, you should know which one you are. Are you there? All right. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect you so it cleans it up a little bit for me. I do appreciate it. Thank you for trying. Hopefully, if you can call back later in the show. Up next, we have Nigel. Nigel, you're on the air with Red Pill 78 and the panel. What can we do for you, sir?
Hi. Happy birthday to your mother. Firstly,
yep. Thank you for being here.
I've been watching your show for quite a while, and August I lost my brother from stage 4 cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
In January, he was told he had prostate cancer. That was cured, and then all of a sudden they hit him in July with "you got cancer." He left behind 3 children and a wife. Obviously, he's only 55. But what annoyed me is that I saw on YouTube the conspiracy to cover up cancer by Zazinski. Bazinski, have you heard of him?
Of course. Yeah.
Fighting the FDA for 40 years.
Yeah,
that's right. That's the one. Yeah, the cancer cure, cover cure. I just found it as I've just lost my brother, so I was a little bit peeved at that. And I don't know if anybody had ever heard of it. You see. I found it by chance, and it's only been up. Let's see, since July.
He's outside of Houston. It's called antinioplastin's.
That's the one, yeah.
His cancer, the success of his is limited to certain types of cancer, unfortunately, but fortunately as well. But he's been fighting the FDA and winning, but he's been in battle for a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
Well, I only found it in July. I only found it just before my brother died, and I was obviously, because I've just lost my brother, I was a little bit peeved.
Oh, I can understand that.
Finding that information, and it's too late.
I myself, when I lost my father back in 2009, I was trying to do as much research as I could about alternative cures, and I had just started finding things. And no sooner he was gone within 60 days of us finding out what type of cancer he had. And, he'd completely declined chemo or any type of treatment because he could tell, just the speed with which it was taking over his body. It was, it wasn't worth it to him. So
sorry you lost your father.
My heart goes out to you for your brother as well.
Yeah.
He's in a happier places with Jesus. So.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Anyway, I'm going to go, but thank you very much for the show that you do. I watch every week. My partner and I, we watch all your live shows. And
awesome.
God bless you all.
Nigel, thank you for being here, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye. All right, so up next was Wix. Wix, are you there? You're on the air with the panel. WIC''S. All right, Wix, if you need to get your microphone working, we've got... Wix, are you there?
All right, Wix, if you need to get your...
Okay, somebody go ahead and hit mute on your... on your podcast.
On the background.
Yeah.
The background.
All right. So Wix, while you're getting your microphone ready, we've got LG Stylo here in the red shirt and the glasses. LG Stylo, what's your name?
LG.
Hi, this is Laura.
Laura, thank you for telling me that. You're on the air with the panel. What can we do for you? What was your question?
My question is about epilepsy.
Okay.
I've had it since I was 2 years old. There were 5 times in my youth I should have died because of seizures, but I'm sitting here at 62 years old. And I also had the brain surgery for it when I was 32, which was very successful. For about 24 years, I was seizure-free.
Wow.
Now, when I went through the divorce, the stress of that brought them back. Not near as bad as they were. I was having grand mals. Right now, it's, they're actually still grand mals, but they don't happen very often. It's like it's been 3 years now since I had one. But I guess my question is, I'm taking Keppra. The side effects of Keppra are bone loss, and since I'm in my 60s, bone shedding, along with age, is really becoming a problem. So I'm wanting to know, is there something else I can take that can control seizures?
My first suspicion is that you had a vaccine reaction, but I don't know for sure.
I've wondered that because I was only 2, and I did have a high fever.
Right. And so again, detoxification. It sounds to me like you got it under control and you've rerouted the nerve pathways, which I think is important. I don't have a direct answer, but I would say try, like as I said to the other person that came on, check out Ayurvedic medicine, check out homeopathy. Somebody who really is a true homeopath, not just winging it.
Laura, I would also suggest making sure that you're not drinking fluoridated water. If the water you're drinking on a daily basis does have fluoride in it, then it's going to take the place of calcium in your bones, which is going to make them more brittle. Skeletal fluorosis is indistinguishable from osteoporosis. Same symptoms, and you can really put yourself at risk for much more brittle bones if you're drinking fluoridated water.
I know I'm running it through a charcoal filter, but I don't know if that...
Yeah, I don't think it does.
One other note on the bone. If you strengthen your muscles, you put the tension, on your tendons and strengthen your muscles, either weight lifter, but weights, some form of exercise, yoga or something to strengthen your muscles. That's going to put tension on your bones, which then strengthens your bones.
I actually thought about that because in my youth, the very thing that saved me from the seizures was gymnastics. It built my body and gave me muscle when I was in 7th grade that most girls that age did not have.
I wouldn't suggest starting where you left off. Start over again.
No, no. But at least I still have the remnants of that to build on.
All right, Laura, any other questions for the panel? We've got 3 more callers coming up behind you.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
All right. Up next is caller 2. Caller 2, I'm going to unmute you. And are you there, caller 2? That's you.
Am I caller 2?
You are caller 2. What's your name, sir? And I'll change it on the screen.
This is Jim.
Jim, you're on the air. What was your question for the panel?
Well, Charles, I had recommended somebody that's been fighting cancer for years and basically given a death sentence. And I gave him the website to get the 714X. And he said he sent an email, and they said because he had an existing tumor that it wouldn't work.
I don't know who he sent an email to. He didn't send it to me. That's nonsense.
Well, I think he might have sent it to Serby.
Almost everybody who came to us in the 1990s, we had 50,000 terminal patients. They all had tumors and they all had radiation. So,
okay, so do I need to put him in direct touch with you?
Well, if he's willing to pursue it, yes. I mean, this is part of the problem that I've seen over the years is people will learn about something and they'll go to their doctor and ask their opinion as opposed to doing their own homework. And this is a big leap. You know, people have to actually participate and be willing to learn. But I would say if he's willing and he has cancer, yes, absolutely. He needs to consider it, study it. I cannot prescribe it for him. I can't tell him what to do. He has to make the decision.
No, I understand that. So, but I should put him in touch with you?
Yeah, he should read the material, or if he called Canada and asked for the medicine and they told him that doesn't sound right. I don't know who he contacted.
Okay. All right. That was all I needed. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jim, thank you for your call.
Yeah, you guys are great. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time. All right. Coming up next is caller 3. I've just unmuted you. If you're on the screen here, why don't you go ahead and say hello and then tell us your name.
Hello?
Hello, there you are. What's your name, caller?
I am Bomar.
You're Boar?
Bomar. B-O-M-A-R.
Okay, Bomar. Are you still there? We just lost him. Oh, that's... Call back in. Bull. And right now on the screen, there's only one caller that hasn't spoken yet. Can we get your name?
Hey, my name is Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. Welcome. And what was your question for the panel, Debbie?
So today I was actually diagnosed with pseudotumor cerebri, and it was described to me as basically like a buildup of spinal fluid on my brain inside my head. So I was wondering if you guys have any idea about this, either what might cause it, or I've been listening, so I know like the clean foods and stuff like that to help overall, but do you know anything specifically about that?
Well, first of all, I would suggest using the blood test because it'll give you exactly what it is. There's a lot of diagnosis. Let me look at Rick. They diagnosed it 15 different ways from Sunday, and none of them were accurate. So unfortunately, my brother has a tumor behind his ear that he's had since 2007. And the doctor told him, this is not cancer. This is just a growth. Don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. Now he's going in for surgery because it's grown so big. And if it's in the brain, one of the few things that you can reach the brain, treat the brain with or affect the brain with is the 714X, because it does go past the blood-brain barrier. But definitely the blood test to find out, is it cancer? Is it what are the symptoms? Are you passing out? Are you getting headaches? Are you losing your sight? I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah. Besides the sight, like I've been having headaches and like it feels like pressure in my ears, like I'm on an airplane, and extreme pain in my neck and my shoulders. It's crazy.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Debbie.
So all right, yeah, no, thank you guys, and yeah, I'll definitely look into getting the blood test and all that. You guys are great.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling, Debbie, and thank you for watching. We hope check back in with us after you look into that blood test, okay?
One other thing I would say to everybody when a doctor tells them something, for example, they tell you got cancer and you're going to die. You've got to get in right away. That's a standard.
Yeah.
Standard. So my question would be, how many people you've treated with cancer over the last 10 years, and how many are still alive today?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that. Thank you.
All right, Debbie, thank you.
We'll ask them specifically, how many have they seen? Who is an expert in this area? Research the expertise. You have to start digging. I mean, I don't think Google is the answer, but it's out there. You just have to really become your own best friend, your own best doctor.
Excellent. All right, we've got 2 more callers left on the screen. Caller with your phone number ending 0802. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Can we get your name?
My name is Shaylina.
Shaylina, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been listening to your broadcast and hearing all of these wonderful things, and, you know, I'm so blessed. I just wanted to share this tonight for those that, you know, have cancer or know someone that has cancer. November 11, 2017, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, along with pneumonia and a lot of other things, but I'm still here. I have been on a pill type chemo, which is Tagresso, and I've been on it for a long time. And the one thing that I wanted to really stress, because when I was told that you're not going to make it and you don't have a choice, and, you know, so we'll give you this option, and the only reason you can do it is because, you know, President Trump signed something that made it like I have the right to try. And I guess the thing is that my doctor, I would go to him and I'd ask him questions about my diet and what I could do. And I noticed that he would always shy away from that. So I began to research for myself. I began to eat things that were better for me. No, I'm not on a completely plant-based diet, but my whole life changed in a moment. And so I just really glad to be a part of the discussion tonight.
Awesome.
I hope I've encouraged somebody, because I'm still here. Monday is my 2-year anniversary, and I plan to be here for all that.
All right.
You're doing well.
Yep, thank you.
I'm glad to be. I'm glad you're doing well too, and everyone else that, you know, is listening. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Shaylina, thank you for calling and thank you for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, we are approaching the end of the broadcast. I would like to ask that no one else call in. We've got caller with your phone number ending 0319. You're on the air, and can we get your question?
Yes, I am Bomar.
You're Bomar. Oh, great. so sorry about that.
Cool. No problem. I've been taking bee pollen for the last 50 years.
Okay.
I do not get sick. I just want to know your opinion of bee pollen. Bee pollen has 5,000 enzymes, coenzymes, all your vitamins and minerals. If I have a backache, I take a little valerian root. If I have any GI problems, I do a little ginseng. I have not found any other need for anything else. What is your opinion?
Good job.
Charlie and Rick,
what else do you need?
I'm unable to mute you.
On top of it.
Don't go away because you're staying here.
All right. Excellent. So from everything I know about bee pollen, it's
amazing
really
what
good
natural
too.
things will do.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Am I doing correct?
Sounds like it. You're in good health and you're not getting sick. Everything that I know about it.
You're doing great, man.
Yep.
Otherwise.
I mean, I got run over by a car last year. It took me a week to heal. I mean, I got a broken wrist, a broken collarbone.
That's awesome.
A perforated liver, and a hole in my skull, and everything healed within a week.
That's incredible.
Amazing immune system. You've built up an amazing immune system. That's
I'd say.
whole.
That's great.
Why aren't you talking about the
How did
bee pollen?
How did we make it up before the 19th century, right?
Well,
yeah. Well, actually, it's 1938 is when they started prescription drugs.
Yeah.
Before 1938, everyone used colloidal silver. They made it themselves, and that was their own immune system. Or it was they actually what would you call it? It was.
Can anyone hear
It was what was used to fight off infections. After 1938, it became pharmaceutically correct to have the stuff made by a factory.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it in your cells.
Well, the introduction of penicillin was the beginning of the destruction
into,
of the microbiome in the human body, which really brought it on.
Pardon?
I think we got a slight delay with Rick Bomar. We're gonna go on to Michelle because we're at the top of the hour and we've got to close out the show.
Okay, yes, you have to go.
Yeah, thank you for the call, though. I will look at doing a show specifically on bee pollen, though.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, Michelle Georgeson.
Good stuff. Very good. Yeah.
Michelle Georgeson.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. What was your question, Michelle?
Okay, my question was, do you think the treatment will work for Lyme disease?
Charlie.
It'll help you. Yes, there are other things you can do for Lyme disease. I'm seeing now that Lyme is rampant. There's a lot of things that they're calling Lyme that may or not be indeed from the Lyme, from the bite of a tick. I helped one lady who had Lyme disease using a homeopathic version of the.
Charlie, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Charlie. Too much.
What Charlie was saying is that he thinks that there's a lot of stuff out there that's being diagnosed as Lyme disease, which is not necessarily from it.
I was asking about Lyme disease.
Right, yes. And he's just saying that the diagnoses of Lyme disease in today's climate, perhaps other stuff is being blamed on it. However, he has treated and helped people with Lyme disease before. The treatment has helped. And it's my understanding that the instance that he's speaking about right now, the patient went into complete remission. Wasn't that right, Charlie?
Yeah, she used an isosode, or excuse me, a nosode of a homeopathic nosode, which you need to see a true homeopath, a doctor of homeopathy.
Did you hear that, Michelle?
Dr. Hulda Clark is a great source.
Michelle, did you hear that?
Look at Dr. Hulda Clark also.
Okay, Dr. Hulda Clark, Michelle. I hope that you heard that, and I hope that you can hear me saying goodbye, you guys. We're going to have to go ahead and wrap up the show because we are at the top of the hour. Michelle, thank you for your call. Do appreciate it. I want to thank Kirsten, Rick, and Charlie all for coming on tonight. You guys, once again, lots of great information. I would just like to remind everyone, if you are interested in purchasing the book, go ahead through the link in the description of this video below. Use the code REDPILL78 for $5 off the book. If you want to get in touch with Kirsten for the blood test, her phone number and email address is in the description below. So once again, guys, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to the audience. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.
Thank you. Good night.